Hello my fellow animal lovers and history buffs. In this Animals and History, I'm delving into one mystery that has divided the public and scientists alike. Are big cats really roaming the countryside? This is the story of the various beasts that are said to be living amongst us. The history of big cat sightings in the UK stretches back to the 18th century, although detailed records from this period are scarce. Most of these early accounts were often anecdotal, with descriptions of large, mysterious felines prowling the rural landscapes. In 1760, a large cat-like creature was reportedly seen in Cornwall, and it's thought that this could be an early reference to what is now known as the Beast of Bodmin Moor. This beast came to national attention in the 1970s, when locals reported seeing a large black cat roaming the countryside. The reported sightings of the Beast of Bodmin Moor went on for another 20 years, and following the killing of livestock on Cornish moorland, an investigation by the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food was conducted in 1995. They concluded that there was no verifiable evidence of exotic felines loose in Britain. Another well-known case is the Surrey puma. The first report of this was back in the 1950s, and this creature was allegedly sighted dozens of times over several decades, with witnesses describing a large muscular cat resembling a puma. Now, police investigations were conducted. Similarly to the Beast of Bodmin Moor, there was no evidence that was uncovered. Now, despite the lack of concrete evidence from these earlier cases, this story is about to take an interesting turn. In October 2023, Cumbrian resident Sharon Larkin Snowden stumbled across a freshly unalived sheep. She saw something rush off into the distance that was the size of a German Shepherd dog. Scientists took a swab from that carcass and, using DNA analysis, was able to conclude that the culprit was a big cat, most likely a puma. This latest DNA analysis supports previous identifications made by Professor Robin Allaby from the University of Warwick, who has also identified a bit of a claw that came from the north of England belonging to a cat in the Panthera genus. And this testing service set up by Professor Allaby started in 2012, and that was following the discovery of a roe deer carcass that had been scavenged upon, and the DNA analysed from that revealed the culprit was a fox, which the professor says is an underestimated predator. So while DNA analysis results have shown that sheep have been predated upon by a panther, making it one of the most significant pieces of evidence to date, this latest analysis still raises more questions than answers. How did, for example, such an animal come to be in the UK? Was a puma an escapee from captivity, or could there be a breeding population in the UK? Dr. Andrew Hemmings, who's a zoologist who's studied big cat sightings in and around the UK, notes that while there have been credible reports and some physical evidence like footprints or what seems to be big cat poop, it's still difficult to build a definitive case for a sustained population of big cats to be living here in the wild. And that's because there's a lack of consistent attacks on livestock. And in this digital age, there remains a lack of clear, unambiguous photos or videos of big cats out and about. For example, in 2011, a deer carcass was found in Scotland with injuries consistent with a large predator attack. And while the injuries suggested it was a big cat that could be responsible, there was no definitive proof. Then fast forward to 2022, and a motorist in Devon reports seeing a large black cat cross the road in front of him. The driver described this animal being the size of a Labrador with a long tail and a powerful build. This sighting, like many others, have been dismissed by the authorities as likely being a large domestic cat, a fox or even a dog. So a key factor in the big cat mystery is the 1976 Dangerous Wild Animals Act, which made it illegal to own certain species without a licence. And many believe it was this law that led to the release of exotic pets into the wild by owners who could no longer legally keep them. This theory suggests that some of these released animals may have survived and even bred in the wild, leading to the sightings we hear about today. Yet this theory has its limitations. For a sustainable population of big cats to exist, there would need to be a sufficient number of animals, both male and female, to maintain a breeding population over several generations. Now, given the short lifespan of big cats in the wild, especially in a non-native environment like the UK, this seems unlikely that a viable population could have persisted undetected for so long. And it's possible that misidentification is a common explanation for some of the big cat sightings. For example, large domestic cats, especially those with black coats, could be mistaken for wild panthers at a distance. Additionally, deer, foxes and dogs have all been misidentified as big cats, particularly in poor lighting or when seen fleetingly. Another explanation to this is hoaxes and pranks, because they've played a role in perpetuating the big cat myth. Over the years, there have been numerous reports of fake paw prints, stage photographs, and even planted carcasses intended to deceive investigators and the public. While these incidences are relatively rare, they all contribute to the overall skepticism surrounding big cat sightings. So where does this leave us? The evidence for big cats in the UK is puzzling. On the one hand, we have some credible eyewitness reports, some physical evidence, and the occasional DNA matches. Yet on the other hand, there is a lack of consistent, reliable data such as clear photographic evidence or frequent livestock attacks, which suggests that if big cats do exist in the UK, they're either extremely rare or transient escapees rather than a stable breeding population. Personally, I remain open-minded, having spent much time over the years roaming around the Chilterns off the beaten track on dog walks and seeing the unusual scat, kills and sometimes very large, dashing away creatures. I also acknowledge that my eyesight isn't 20/20 vision, so who knows? This story is ever evolving and it's one to watch.